Today we are focusing on raising the future breeders or your future breeders for your own collection. So we're focusing on the most effective and efficient way of raising your snakes and also taking health as a #1 priority. So ball pythons can grow quick, but we have found over the last couple of years to actually grow them slower has got more benefits in the long run. So let's go take a look on how we do it. So guys, we're going to show you guys today how we go through the process of first deciding on which animals we'd like to keep back on a clutch, and then actually on the process of how we raise the animals from a hatchling up to an adult breeding size animal. So the first clutch, or the clutch we're going to look today at, is an Exantic Desert Ghost male bred to our OD Yellow Belly Fire Pastel Exantic female. So all of these babies in this clutch are Exantics 100% for DG, and what we were after in this clutch was specifically Orange Dream Exantic. So we didn't really mind about the other codoms. They were pastel, yellow belly and fire, but the main animal or the main gene that we want from this pairing is an OD Exantic head for DG. So we were lucky enough actually to hatch quite a large variety of babies in the clutch. So we're first going to check at the first one. This is a pastel Exantic head for DG female. So with this animal, she doesn't have exactly the genes that we want. So this animal will become for sale. Still a beautiful animal. It's just not exactly what we wanted from this pairing. So every year before we make our pairings, I look at the collection and I write down my key pairings or my key projects that we have in the collection, and I look what genes do I want to add in the future to that project and what we already had in the project. So for instance, we didn't have any Orange Dream into our Exantic projects, and that's why we made this pairing. Then now let's look here. Here's the first animal which has got OD in it. So this is an OD Fire Exantic. So this is a great animal for our collection because he's got the Orange Dream, he's got fire, and he's visual Exantic head for DG. So he's one of the animals which is a contender to be kept back. So the reason why it's going to be hard to decide between him and his brother is because his brother is actually the full combo. So he's an OD Yellow Belly Firefly Exantic head for DG. So between these two males, it's actually quite hard to decide which animal to keep back. Visually this animal is better, but I think genetically going forward in our collection, this animal will work better just because there's no limitations. If we breed him with another female pastel or a female that's got pastel in it, we're not going to produce super pastels. Well, with this male, if we do breed him to a female which is a pastel Desert Ghost, we might end up with some super pastels. So out of these two animals, I think we'll decide rather to keep back the Orange Dream Fire. Even though this animal is more beautiful in my opinion, I think this animal long term will have a better impact in our collection, and also when we do pair with him, there won't be any limitations. So yeah, this is two amazing little males, and let me show you guys a definite no-brainer which will be a holdback for our collection is actually the female OD Firefly Yellow Belly Exantic. And the reason why she's a no-brainer is just because in my opinion the females is always the most valuable asset in your collection, and going forward with this female, she's got a great gene stack. She's got Orange Dream, Yellow Belly Fire and pastel. She's a visual Exantic and she's head for DG. So this female is definitely going to be a holdback. So after deciding which animals are your holdbacks in the clutch, we always tend to move the animals to a separate rack, or you can mark the label to say this is a holdback animal. So that's the first step on deciding on your holdbacks. Okay guys, so first let's just touch base. As you guys can see, is we're actually keeping some sheds for genetic shed testing. So Charlie of Grey Rider, he should actually receive an order from us pretty soon. We're super excited about all of these sheds that we are collecting. But yeah, getting back to raising up your holdbacks or the next generation of breeders, the second step is actually to get the animals to start feeding. So this whole clutch actually started to have the first meal yesterday. So I would always say rather start smaller off. So we actually fed these frozen fed mice fuzzies, and that's normally what we start off the small ball pythons off. And we try and feed the hatchling ball pythons for the first 6 to 12 months of their lifespan. We try and feed them every week, and as you guys will see a bit later, as they do get a bit older, we start to feed them a bit less. The third step is, guys, depending on the animal's growth rate and how fast they grow, you want to move them up to bigger size tubs as they grow. So for instance, this OD yellow belly Enchi Krypton double head for DG Pied is actually on the size now where she is able to move out of these FB10 tubs into the FB40 tubs, which is the next stage of the growth rate. So what we do is each animal is different. They don't grow at the same rate. We actually look at the animal just judging by the size. We really actually weigh our snakes. Judging by the size, we move them up to bigger size enclosures. So if we actually go around, I can show you guys the next step of this. So after they reach around, let's say 600, 700 grams, and we are fine with the weight of the animal, we actually move them over to these tubs, which is similar sizes to the FB40. As you guys can see, as the tub stays a similar setup, they're still on paper and they still have the same exactly setup, just in a bigger cage. So this animal, as you guys can see, is a bit bigger than the previous snake we've shown you, and she's already moved up to a bigger tub. So it's just constantly looking at the animal, looking at the growth. If the animal doesn't want to eat in this specific tub, we actually move them back to the FB10s just to stimulate feeding again. So guys, then another important thing that we actually only discovered in the last couple of years with working with the animals and just looking at their behavior is we actually change the animals' feeding schedules as they become older. So roughly at a year's age, we actually start feeding the animals less frequently. So then we actually go from we feed 2 weeks consecutively, and in the third week we don't feed at all, and in the fourth week we'll feed again. So basically in a 4-week cycle, first 2 weeks we feed, the third week is off, and the fourth week we feed again. What we have seen in the past or with this method is the animals tend to eat a lot better. If they're offered a meal, they don't refuse the meal, and actually the growth rate of the animal looks exactly the same as by getting fed once weekly. Also, another great thing I think about this method is I think long term it's going to have more health benefits for the animal itself, because they're not digesting the whole time, and it gives them that break of just not feeding and also just digesting the meals good. And then the last step that we actually do is once the females are on the paper, so as you guys can see, is majority of our juvenile animals are on paper. Once they reach 1,300 grams or a bit bigger, we actually move them over to cocoa husk. So for instance, here's a female which is nearing breeding size. She's not ready to breed yet, but as you guys can see, is we already put her on cocoa husk, that she can get used to the new substrate, get used to the new environment in a sense. And also this normally also sometimes help females to stimulate even a more aggressive feeding response. With males it can be a bit different. This process that we applied now, we apply to all of our snakes. With males, they tend to be a bit smaller, so we tend to move them up a bit, I can say, later than compared to the females. But with all of our snakes, we try and keep them on paper as fast as possible until we have to change them over to cocoa husk. And I think this is a real important thing as well, because then you can still change over the snake back to paper, or you can take it back to cocoa husk, and you can still stimulate that feeding response. So in general, what I found with the snakes is I think the less frequently we feed them, the better they feed. So I don't say skip every second week or don't feed every week, but I would say in long run I think the animals will have more benefits by having 1 or 2 weeks of a break in a feeding schedule, just to help them digest the meals and also have that break in the duration. We are super excited just to announce that we just launched our Patreon page. We're going to have some great behind the scenes footage and some major savings on animals. Click the link down below. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you have any questions for us, please make sure to comment down below. As you guys can see, we've got some awesome breeders for the next generation.